Mr. Hern.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Ranking Member Chabot, Mr. Secretary, Administrator. Thank you both for being here in person for this. This is unprecedented times. Mr. Secretary, our office has dealt with many people who have waited weeks and weeks for their unemployment checks to get approved at the state level, hundreds of thousands across the country, I'm sure. As you may remember, we discussed this on a phone call over 4 months ago where we noted that under the current capacity, states were ill-equipped to handle the influx of unemployment applications. To combat this problem and to keep hardworking Americans employed, Congress worked in a bipartisan way, unprecedented actually in today's times, to establish the Paycheck Protection Program. And while I believe this program could have been expanded and more could have been done to help the 40 million Americans who are currently unemployed, this program has successfully saved 51 million jobs in America, which was designed so that when we come out of this pandemic that we can quickly stand up the economy, which is what we've been seeing happen in May and June and continue to see that happen now. You have stated many times that the priority of the PPP was to predominantly preserve and save jobs and employees rather than the business owners themselves. Would you still agree with that statement?
Yes.
Additionally, could you discuss what you've learned from this or strategies that the federal government can implement in the future to better prepare for this next situation or this situation in the future?
Well, let me just comment on one of the things we liked about the PPP was all the money we were spending on the employment side of this was money we saved on unemployment. I think one of the issues we've learned and we have to fix in the next legislation is the technical issue where in certain cases states with the top up were paying people more not to work than to work. And as you said, some of the states were better prepared. Some of these states are 40-year-old computers. I also want to just say one thing. I know a lot of people use this 40 million people unemployed. Fortunately, it's not 40 million unemployed. People thought we'd get to that. But fortunately, right now, we only have 18 million unemployed, and we have about 14 million more than where we started this, and we got to get those people back to work. But thank you.
Thank you. Further, my casework team has worked with hundreds of people who have had difficulties receiving their stimulus check, and I know you're aware of this. We've talked to your offices. Can you briefly explain, very briefly, what we've seen happen and why? Is there a big issue here, or are all these one-offs?
I mean, let me just say, all these one-offs, I'm sympathetic because these are real people who want their checks, so I don't mean to any way minimize this. But again, we sent out over 150 million checks in record time. And yes, there were certain cases because they were either done off of previous tax returns or other information that we got, and that's unacceptable. But we'll work with you on it.
Thank you. Administrator Carranza, 2 weeks ago, Associate Administrator Rivera testified before the committee regarding the EIDL program. And during my conversation with the administrator, he committed to providing this committee with a document outlining some best practices by the end of the third quarter, September 30th, 2020. This will be a document to explain what the SBA has learned and how you all believe you could better be prepared in the future should another pandemic arise. Just as a side note in that, the administrator had stated he'd been here since 9/11. He'd been through 9/11, the financial crisis, and, you know, we keep reinventing the wheel, and it seems with all of us engaged in this in a very bipartisan way that we could put a pandemic playbook in place so that we could learn from our mistakes and not repeat them again, because when we make mistakes, people are harmed. Or not at least given stimulus when they need it. So if we could learn from those mistakes and do better, that would be great. And I think that would be a way to do it in a non-political way that we could put these on the shelf. One of the key components of this document would be to design a communication plan for future pandemics, which would greatly help all of us work together. Would you commit to seeing that get done by the end of the third quarter?
Yes, Congressman. We've already begun. We've prepared the first deck on how we're addressing fraud. We have also staffed up. I've started with 2 additional executives, SESs and ODA. So we're going to reinforce the leadership in ODA for future situations and in preparation for the end of the year. So definitely you'll have a full SOP or MOP.
Well,
on
Again,
lessons learned.
as business people, and
Yes.
many are in this room, I've been in business 35 years, we can talk about what happened, but that doesn't really solve a problem. So if we can endeavor in a document what those issues were so that we can not make those again, we'll make new ones, and that's human nature. But if we can get that done, that would be great for us. And Madam Chair, Ranking Member, I thank you for allowing us to have this meeting, and it's very important. And thank both of you for being here and for what you've done in these unprecedented times. Thank
Look
you.
forward to continue working with you. Thank you.
Thanks.